Are we on? Okay.
And we're live.
Yay.
You screwed that one up.
No,
Not me.
Well, because actually you screwed it up because I think you're the one that started this text chain with all these people that I am on, and my phone keeps buzzing, and I keep feeling obligated to look at it.
Well, we're getting election results.
Yeah, great.
This is a live podcast. We should do that. We should announce the winner.
What is he in, Northbrook?
Yeah. Let's see. Glenview Village trustee. So I think the podcast can call it with, we don't know how many percent of the precincts in. Chuck Gittles has won his seat on the Glenview Village trustee, on the Board of Trustees. So congratulations.
Congrats, Chuck. That's at Ivy Chat, right?
Yes, at Ivy Chat. So congratulate him, blow him up.
Or go to, do you still have chuckthechuck.com?
I probably do. I pay for a lot of crap that I probably should stop paying for a long time ago.
Me too. I've been paying for Hare Jemessian for 4 years.
I'm just going to start the Freedom of Information Act request now. I want to know everything I can find out about Chuck.
Cool. There's not much to know.
So
he's Jewish and a banker.
So anyway, welcome back.
Yeah.
This is my second
second
podcast this season. I'm seasoned.
First time for me.
You were actually in Texas.
I was in Texas.
I see you actually made it the opener, even though you didn't think you were going to make
it.
We made fun of you last week because you were going to be there and not there.
Oh, well, I'm glad I blew up that podcast. Yes, I did make it to, this is Ben Kermit, but who are we just going to use our names on this? This is Michael.
Yeah,
this is a great start. Did you guys get off to this rip-roaring start? Anyhow, yeah, we drove down to Texas, which was actually not that bad. We left because Kelsey's, can you edit her name out just in case something bad happens with us?
Yeah, I'll bleep it.
And then we insert whoever's name we want to. I go back and look at it. So we drove down because she was out of school. She was on spring break, so we left that Friday after school. We didn't leave here till like 8.
So she's in high school?
Mm-hmm. She's in high school. Whoever's name you inserted might be in high school, actually. So we drove, I don't know, we made it to Missouri. Oh, by the way, as we were driving, I just put it in the GPS and wasn't really paying attention to where we were going. But we are just absolutely trashing what a shitty, boring drive Indiana is. And then, like, probably 4 or 5 hours into it, I'm like, I think we're in Illinois because we passed something. And so I have my apologies to the folks, not full apologies to the people of Indiana, because Indiana is boring and shitty to drive through too. But at least you've got like Indianapolis to kind of break it up at some point halfway through Indiana. The drive through Illinois was absolutely brutal. So we drove probably to like 3 a.m, got into Missouri, and then drove the rest of the way to Texas. And we actually stayed about 2 hours away from Arlington. My sister and brother-in-law put us up in their time. Okay, I do have stories. They put us up in their timeshare because they had extra points. I have 2 sisters, and somehow both of them have been talked into timeshares. so Kelsey and I, when we get there and they're checking us in, they're like, oh, for this one time only, we can offer you a free horseback riding, horseback riding session or whatever you call it. And I'm like, all right, what's the pitch? And they're like, oh, you just have to go to this. And I'm like, well, how long is the pitch and how much is the horseback riding? So I can do the math on how much our time is actually worth. So like, it's like, and I probably shouldn't admit what I decided what our time was worth. So like, it'd be like $80 for the horse riding session, and it'll probably take no more than 90 minutes. I'm like, all right. I'm like, let's do it. I'm like, whatever, let's do it. So this guy took 3 hours of our time. And I realized if you guys are ever going to do this, go do this and stay on timeshares, other people's timeshares, get the free stuff. What you have to do is say that everyone pays for your vacation. Say that because like my sister and brother-in-law paid for that time that we spent there for us. And we should have just stuck with that because he's like, well, what do you guys? Because their whole model is based on, oh, you're going to spend $60,000 over the next 25 years on vacation. So just buy this for $45,000 or whatever it was. And I told him, I'm like, our guy's name was Renzo, which I assume was short. I assume it was short for Lorenzo. And I kept calling him Renfro, and I don't know what that's from. So if you can think of something, let me know. But
Mike Renfro used to play for the Cowboys. Brad Renfro is the actor.
Oh, maybe
there you go.
Anyhow, and I kept saying, Renzo, the problem is that your argument is fundamentally flawed because we don't have to take those vacations. If money's tight a certain year, we won't take that vacation. And he goes, well, it doesn't sound like that's the case. I'm like, yes, but it is. I'm like, if we just spend this money out. I'm like, also, both my sisters have timeshares. Like, I'm not going, like, I'll just borrow from them or I'll buy points off them. Anyhow, if you guys ever do that, do that. Just tell them that you don't spend any money on vacation, that you're doing this on someone else's dime, and then you like go to your parents' lake house or whatever for most of your vacations. So we stayed there for probably 4 or 5 days, and then it was nice. It was a nice little resort thing. And then we drove about 2 hours to Arlington the morning of the game. And if you guys ever do go to Arlington, I didn't. So the reason I did not get opening day tickets, I assumed since they've been terrible for multiple years, that it wouldn't be super difficult to get opening day tickets. So I had signed up for their, like, you have to go to the Rangers mailing list or whatever just to get a chance to get opening day tickets. So I did that, of course, got shut out just in the live waiting room. Actually, I don't even think I could get into the live waiting room without, like, their approval. Anyhow, whatever. So I was like, let's just get the Saturday game. We'll pay half price that we would for it, and we'll just go and we'll go Thursday, and we'll just go and hang out around outside the ballpark and, like, see what their not nightlife, but what their ballpark life is like, and then we'll go to the Saturday game. And it was a little bit of a bummer because we made it in 2017, which was great because they opened in St. Louis. And then last year we did, they opened in Miami. So we'd taken road trips for both of those and made it to opening day. Excuse me, everyone. I'm going to cough right into this microphone. So we, I'm going to actually have my dump button. Sorry.
No, don't take a dump. Oh, God.
So I've got my...
This really went to hell in a hurry.
Yeah. So, so we drove up there, and I guess the night before, I was like, hey, do you want to just see if we can get tickets? Went on a StubHub, paid just for standing room only. It was super cheap to get StubHub tickets. So I just went on, and actually there were some standing room still on MLB.com, and I was like, they were cheaper on StubHub. So I just grabbed a couple of those. We ended up selling our Saturday game, which thank God we did, because Kelsey had to go baback on Monday. And that if we had stayed for that game Saturday, It didn't end until 10:45.
Yeah.
And the thought was that I would just start driving, until I got tired right from the park and just find a hotel somewhere along the way. That would have been a miserable game to sit through. It was a hell of a lot colder than it was on Thursday, and the Cubs completely blew it. So, you know what? You can have a chance to talk unless you want my quick review of Arlington.
No, I was going to say, of course, it's sold out. It's the last
opener
ever in there.
That's what I forgot to say.
Wonderfully 25-year-old stadium with all that great history of them almost winning a World Series twice.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I was very surprised. So the thing
that was wrong with it was they built it there and didn't put a frickin' roof on it, and they melt all summer. So the new park looks a lot like it, except it's going to have a roof.
And it's right next to it, apparently. So wouldn't you think they would wouldn't it be cheaper to just build a roof over the existing park? Because it's in good shape. It doesn't have a lot of character, but there's not a ton of parks, I feel like, that have. Actually, I take that back because a lot of them are getting at 21 or something. So now we're going to have to go back to fucking Arlington at some point, though, to see the new park.
Yeah. Well, I see that's why they do it.
Yeah.
They're going to open a new park every 3 years.
They're doing it just for our two scalped StubHub.
Guys, it'll totally be worth it.
Yeah.
Let's build $1 billion park.
But that was a fun game to watch. Lester was good.
Yeah. The season was going great.
The offense was great.
Well, the offense was great all weekend.
Yeah. Their offense was great until last.
That's great in Atlanta. Although they got 9 hits and drew 4 walks and somehow didn't score. Part of it's because Mark Zagunas just runs. Oh, the ball got hit. I'll just take off.
So it looked like Keystone Cops the last night's game. I mean,
my favorite
was throwing balls over the plate.
My favorite was Rizzo muffs the grounder and then underhand tosses it into the dugout. I've never seen that. You've never seen that before. Just woo.
It was like he was shooing a fly away from himself.
Yeah, well, it was their April Fool's joke, and it was not terribly funny. But they committed the most errors they have since Lee Elia was the manager.
Oh, he was the manager right before. Yes.
Right before. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that's right.
Right before.
How
Jim
could I have
Estienne,
forgotten the immortal Jim Estienne? Oh. But I thought Joe should have done a tribute to Lee and just gone on a profanity-laced tirade through the whole postgame.
I wonder what a tickle fight, a profanity-laced tirade by Joe would actually feel like.
Oh, it'd be a lot of like really fancy swear words that we haven't heard of yet. You'd have to like look them up and be like, "Whoa, that was a good one," but we wouldn't. In the moment, we wouldn't know what it was. So it's probably good that he skipped it.
Obviously, stop me if you guys talked about any of this stuff last week, because
we didn't talk about much.
Are you? I assume I know the answer to this, but are you a big Joe? We need Joe back next year. Give him a lifetime contract, kind of person, or are you the other side?
I like Joe a lot. I think there's almost no chance he'll be back, and I think we're really going to miss him because we actually have a manager who says things and like explains why he does stuff, and he may disagree with it. Yeah, in fact, I think he kind of gets off on it when people disagree with him. And my fear is that I think Theo and Jed want a manager who they can basically make do what they want. They're doing it already with Joe, because the only reason Mark Zagunis has 2 starts is because they told Joe he has to play. Because I think Joe would just as soon actually let Schwarber try to hit lefties.
Yeah.
And prove he can't before you take him out instead of the opposite. Right. How's he ever going to prove it if you don't let him hit? So God knows what puppet they'll put in there next year.
So I'm with you. Like I think he's the best manager I've seen.
Yeah,
I know you're a big Lou guy, but I like him better than.
Well, I like Lou. I thought Lou was a good manager, and I just enjoyed having Lou around. I like the fact that Joe won a World Series. I like that.
Well, and we also got like lame duck Lou by the end of it.
Yeah, he was.
That was not the right manager for the job, but Lou was great. Yeah, he was a hard ass great manager, but
almost as good as the time they hired.
It
was Dusty, right? When they almost hired Bruce Bochy.
Yeah.
It was either Don Baylor or Dusty. And
it was Dusty.
Let's hire him. That's great.
I mean, yeah, I'm almost positive it was Dusty. Yeah, it's brilliant. So, yeah, I'm the same way. I do hope he'll be back because I don't think that there is. I'm kind of with you, especially. This is a good segue. After reading, I assume you read the article of how you guys didn't talk about this last. I don't think it came out until after the podcast last week. The article, the Deadspin article.
Oh no, yes, okay. No, that was Friday. Yeah, that came out on Friday.
Okay,
so that was
super surprising.
That was one of the most satisfying hours I've spent actually having to read something.
It was I want to know. I would love to know how Deadspin got access to all that.
Well, whoever got obviously one person got all of Joe's emails, all of Joe Ricketts' emails, and Splinter published the thing about all of his Islamophobic racist stuff, and Deadspin got their hands on the sale stuff.
Right. Yeah. So the only way that could have been better is if it had been told from the perspective of Todd.
That Todd email is. I want to print it. I want to make a fat head out of it and just put it right back here. That it dripped with so much insecurity that it was awesome. It was the fact that he wanted to back out of the sale because he was concerned that his kids and Tom's kids go to the same school. And his kids weren't going to know that Todd
also owns
that his kid's dad owned just as much of the Cubs as Tom's kid dad was. And then you never listened to me when I was a kid. And it's the same thing now. It's like, oh, this is just tremendous.
Well, to an extent, I kind of thought Laura was being a bit ridiculous. And if you guys have not read that, Andy, put a link to it in the show notes, please.
Sure.
Timestamp this.
I'll get right on it.
Okay. Well, I just Googled Deadspin Cubs tax evasion. I think you'll hit it. But I was getting a little annoyed with Laura there too, because like at a certain point, do you not the entire family can't always be the face of, of what's going on. Oh, and frankly, Tom is the most likable. I mean, this is not a huge high bar to jump over, but Tom is the most likable of all of them from what I've seen. So like, who gives a shit if he's the face of it? They were so self-obsessed, and that's, I don't know, maybe the rich people are like that.
Well, it's very clear that at some point the four of them agreed that Tom would be the spokesman.
Right.
And then Laura kept getting upset that Tom would get mentioned without the other three. Right. He didn't give a shit because he'd run for governor. He just didn't care. Todd was busy running his bike shop business into the ground.
Yes.
And then once that went bankrupt, then he got all upset about it. And it just seemed like Laura, every morning she would like go to her Google alerts, and be like, Tom got mentioned and I didn't get mentioned again.
Right.
It was it was amazing to me, because the thing I loved the most about it was for all the people who say who believe the crap when they say Joe Ricketts doesn't own the Cubs. He put all the money into it.
To be fair,
except for his wife, he made poor Marlene sell like $120 million worth of shares
of their grandkids' college fund.
Yeah, and there was that other fund that he insisted they not touch. It was okay to dip into the grandkids' college fund, but there's this other super secret one with $28 million. No, you're not touching that.
Well, whose kids are? If it's Todd's kids, I'd be like, you know what? It's probably
community college does not cost that much.
So the one saving grace. So of course, not that I had a great opinion of the Rickettses, especially after they did nothing in this offseason. But the one saving grace I did like about them that made them actually look better was when they fought to not have to have Crane Kenny's contract as part of the deal.
And then they caved. They actually, until the Tribune redlined it, he was going to be out. And then we found out he makes he makes more than this now. He made $750,000 in 2008.
That's without bonuses. He could have made $1.5 million
to negotiate media rights between one Tribune holding and another. He gets $750,000 for that. Now that's a job I want.
The lawyer in me wants to know what the fuck those billables were at the end of that, because that took me, like you said, it took me an hour to read an article about their emails, which was the entirety of the first inning, I believe.
And I love the fact that Joe was always very receptive. Whenever Laura would complain, he would always immediately take her side.
Yeah.
And he would say, he'd blame it on the PR firm.
Right.
That was always their fault. And then he would say, because she would say, we need to talk about this at the next family meeting. And he's like, well,
do we
have to? Because they always had a lawyer there who was billing them.
Right.
And he didn't want to have a family squabble and have to pay the lawyer to sit and watch it.
Yeah. And then the one time he's like, well, just so you know, I'm bringing this guy in for $25,000 for an hour and a half. Can we piss all over each other at Thanksgiving like a normal family?
I mean, I can relate to it, because growing up on a farm in Northern Illinois, we always had a lawyer like at dinner.
Yeah.
It was just what we did.
Right. Oh. I think even as a lawyer, I don't have a lawyer at dinner most nights. It was for sure an interesting read, though. Just the craziness of how much actually gets put into those contracts.
Yeah. And
all the debt servicing. I mean, it was. I don't really follow the numbers that well because I don't care as much about that side. Chuck probably would, but it was neat. It was kind of a neat read, honestly, to get that sort of insight as to no matter how rich you get and no matter how few problems you have, you're still going to be a petty little squabbling asshole.
Well, I screenshotted the chart that shows like the grandkids college fund, and Marlene selling the stock, and how much is coming out of the Joe's holdings. And so every time somebody insists that Joe Ricketts doesn't really own the Cubs, I'm just going to slap that up on Twitter every single time and go, oh, he doesn't?
Why would anyone other than Al even, first, give a shit about that argument, and two, What?
Well, the argument only comes up when Joe does something despicable.
Oh yeah.
And then they have to pretend like, whoa, we don't have anything to do with that. Yeah. It's like no one should believe that.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, looking back at that, I forgot that. Well, I frankly, I just it's been so long I haven't been thinking about it. That Cuban was an interested party, and I'm a little bit sad that he made it that far because I am one of the ones that thinks that Cuban, good or bad, would be so fun to have running this team. I think it would have been cool. So, and then I love when they were shitting. Like they point out at one point, Laura or Joe points out, he's like, or no, maybe it was Tom. I think it was Tom. He points out, he's like, oh, did you see Cuban's interview on some network this morning? Today's Show, maybe. He's like, he couldn't even make it 2 sentences without mentioning he's in running for the Cubs. It's like, what the fuck do you think they're interviewing him for?
Right. So, and Tom, do you do long interviews where you don't talk about you're trying to buy the Cubs? Yeah. That's the only reason you're being interviewed.
Yes.
Knock it off.
Sure. So, yeah, it's a good read. You got an hour's worth of time when you're at work sometime. Now you don't have to read it. I'm not saying anymore.
All right, so speaking of read, we have a sponsor, and you don't even know who it is, but I'm going to do the live read for the sponsor. It's very exciting. So here we go.
Forward to this.
Holy Toledo! There goes one over the fence, a TrueLink fence. Call the team that's been winning since 1952, Illinois' largest fence company. For beauty, privacy, security, call TrueLink, 463-7010. There you go.
Were you happy with that?
I was very happy with that. I did it just like Milo Hamilton used to do.
Okay. Good job.
So I can't wait for the TrueLink checks to come in. I probably should have, had him sign a contract or something.
Or added an area code before the number.
That's all they gave me.
Probably 312 codes. I guess.
Yeah. They may have
try a 708 and then a 630.
Well, they may have gone out of business before the 708 area code came in.
Well, it was good.
But there you go.
It was a good bit.
There's like 8 people out there who remember when that commercial was read like 6 times at Cub game. They enjoyed it. So anyway, I teased that I had breaking news about something Cub related, and I do. I know for a fact that. Have you ever seen the Bulls Insider Show on NBC Sports Chicago?
I'm gonna stop you right
Outsider.
there.
Bulls Outsider.
Oh, Outsider I've seen.
Outsider
I've never seen.
You've never seen that? So it's on after the Bulls. So the Bulls have their real post game with Mark Chanowski, Will Perdue, Kendall Gill, one of the Grants, Harvey Horace, whichever one they could find. And then these 3 guys who are just fans sitting in front of a weather map, it looks like, with like, because it's clearly the background behind them is not really there. And they talk about the game. And at times it's pretty entertaining. And I actually tweeted one time, why don't they do a Cubs Outsider? And lo and behold, I got contacted a couple of weeks ago by a producer at NBC Sports Chicago, and then, of course, by our mutual best friend, Dave Kaplan, and then by someone else about the possibility of doing that. So I know for a fact that they're going to start doing this, and I'm not going to be on it. So that's the great news. They are going to do it. I'm sure they'll find, somebody amusing. I told them I thought it was a good idea. I also told them that living in the boondocks, I can't possibly go do all the games.
Move to the city.
Well, I'm sure for what it was going to pay, I probably could have got a place in Lake Point Tower.
You can crash on Cap's. I'm sure Cap would be more than happy to pull out the sleeper sofa.
You think Sammy Sosa still owns the penthouse at Lake Point Tower? I mean, I could just rent it from him.
Now that he's white, he'd fit in a lot better.
Well, it was the only way he could get through the condo board. So he had to do that. Anyway, that's what I know. I know they're doing it. I know I'm not on it. And it's very exciting. And I can't wait to make fun of it. I'll be nice. I can't imagine. The other thing is, I can't imagine having. I think it would be great. That should be a weekly show. Because Bulls only play them 1 or 2 times a week. That's pretty easy. If you're going to try to do that after every Cub game, after a while, those guys are just going to like beat their heads into the wall because they've run out of things to talk about.
Kind of like with this podcast.
Kind of like the podcast. Imagine that.
Well, I guess consider this the audition tape for Kyle. He's young. He's a handsome man.
He could do it. He should do it. Maybe that's where he is. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that's true.
That son of a bitch.
Yeah, we should make an excuse. He's on vacation?
That's what he said.
When are you on vacation? So Kyle and I can do this. And
I'm on vacation next week, so you guys can just do the two of you can do it.
I'm sure we'll definitely set this up.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. So tune in, folks.
So, but honestly, heartfelt congratulations.
Yeah, I'm just happy.
No, I was
just happy to be nominated.
Well, for real. Like this is sincere. I think that's a really cool thing, and I think you'd be great at it. Obviously, that doesn't work in with your schedule.
I think 20 years ago, I'd have been all over it.
Yeah, no.
The sad thing is, I was doing this 20 years ago.
That's true. But no, if you were on it, I would actually tune in all the time when it's Chuck and Cadigan. I won't.
Yeah. It was going to be me and David Howe and Hub. It was going to be the 3 of us. We're going to be Cub Outsiders.
It'll be interesting. I'll watch it.
I just gave myself. Yeah, I'm glad. I really am glad they're doing it because I think it has potential to be fun.
Well, and here's something, Dolan. If they are truly going to start this network, they are going to need a lot of program. Like the Yankees can't fill 24 hours a day, 3 hours, and they have 27 titles. Like you're going to need, and how many retired Hall of Famers play, like retired numbers? Like you are going to need to fill some time. So you should maybe we'll get called when that network goes up.
Yeah, I figure this podcast will be on CubNet or the Marquee Sports Network.
Cool.
And then we'll get TrueLink can really sponsor the show. It'll be great.
We'll bring them back.
So, how concerned are we about our beloved Cubs after it's only 4 games?
Not at all.
Not at all. I'm not very concerned, but that bullpen I knew was going to be a pile of crap, and that's exactly what it is.
And kind of a couple of the guys that you're hoping aren't going to be piles of crap have kind of been piles of crap so far.
My favorite thing so far, I think, was Carl spent the whole offseason developing this ridiculous new windup. And he uses it in 1 game. He immediately gives up a hit, so we can't use it anymore. Then he gives up. Then he lets everybody in, so he's back in the windup again. And then he's given up 3 runs, and the Rangers are complaining. It's like I would let him do it, guys. It doesn't appear to be working. And then he finds out later that he can't do it again. And so last night he pitched with his normal windup, and he was good.
Yeah. Well, why this late into your baseball career at this level of success that you've had would you make such? Because like I think about like. I've never played at the level, obviously, of any of these guys, but I played for a fair amount of time, and I couldn't imagine changing my senior year of high school. I couldn't imagine just changing my swing, like being like, maybe this will work now. Like you're naturally like, I don't know. It seems like to for whatever they were doing it for deceit or for calming him down or whatever the hell that their excuse was, doesn't seem like it.
Well,
it's a wise choice.
Why didn't he just go all the way? Maybe he's left-handed. Maybe he should try that. So Joe was on the Score today and got asked about it and said Carl did it on his own. And Joe's actually pretty happy that he has to ditch it.
Good.
It's like, you can't tell a player to not do it?
That's like,
this isn't going to work. Oh, this is going to be embarrassing when he screws this up. Maybe head it off at the pass and go, Carl, maybe a guy who weighs 40 pounds shouldn't stop all of his momentum to home plate halfway through and then throw again.
Right.
But
that's the Lou Brown philosophy of nice catch. He's doing whatever.
Nice wind up, Carl. Don't fucking do it again.
We can swear on this, even though True Values. sponsor you, right?
If they were still in business, they'd be mad. They got bought by some other fence company. I'm sure that'll be the sponsorship we'll get. They'll hear this and be like, "Oh, we want to be part of you guys. You guys are very great."
Make sure when you're scrubbing this, you bleep out all my profanities.
I think people tune in for the creative profanity. That's the whole reason.
So I will say another thing about the broadcast so far. I really hope, God bless him, God love him for 2016. I don't want to hear David Ross on the Cubs broadcast at all. He. Oh,
you watched it on ESPN last night?
Yeah, because I have YouTube TV. I think I could. What was it on NBC and ESPN?
Yeah.
Or MLB Network, maybe. Anyhow, whatever. I the first thing I clicked on was the ESPN broadcast, and
he's going to be. He's not going to be announced next year unless. Oh, he may actually.
I'll be the Cub manager.
This is what's going to happen.
No.
To save money, he's going to announce the games from the dugout while he's managing on Marquee Sports Network.
So
that's Crane's big idea. We'll have the first manager color analyst ever. It'll be great.
You read
TV. I think I should take the pitcher out. Why aren't I taking the pitcher out? God, I'm a dumbass. Oh, I can just go do it.
You read Teammate, right? Get a big swig of beer right before I asked that question.
I did not read. You did.
Oh, you didn't?
No, people bought that book. Nobody read that book, right?
Well, my mother bought it, and she loves David Ross, and she insisted that I read it. She also loves Kyle Schwarber. You'd love her.
Yep.
She insisted I read it, and I was like, well, this is 105 pages or whatever the hell it was. I'm like, I can get through this pretty quickly.
Did it come with crayons, or did you have to buy the crayons yourself?
Oh, my God. Like, it was the most ridiculous. Like,
who wrote it with him? Oh, I got to look this up.
I don't know, actually. Whoever did not do a good job. Basically, he was writing this thing on his phone, essentially, during the 2016 season.
During games.
And it shows. But so it was the most David Rossi comment I could think of when Descalso came up, and he's like, Cubs fans are really going to love this guy. He's like, and he's talking about what a great just personality this guy is going to be. And then, I don't know if it was Boog, whoever was in the booth with him, was like, well, Rossi, that's kind of the role that you filled for the Cubs and they've been looking for that. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Both of you shut the fuck up. And then I think it was Boog, he's like, Rossi, did you ever catch any no-hitters? And it's like, come on, man. Ross like, well, yeah. They were literally just talking about the Cubs and his role on the Cubs, and he couldn't.
Oh, this is perfect. You're going to love this. Okay, so the co-author of the Ross book
is Rick Sutcliffe.
Is an actual bona fide sports writer. It's Don Yeager.
Oh.
What other book is Don Yeager famous for? He wrote Under the Tarnished Dome. The one
that's right. The
Notre Dame scandal. Yeah.
Oh, I never read that one. I didn't realize that was him. Okay. Well, it's terrible. It was a terrible read. Anyone who it made me not.
Was it better or worse than Jesse Rogers Try Not to Suck?
I didn't read it.
Anybody read it? I'll also admit, I didn't read Cap's book because he was going to send me one and he never did, and I was not going to buy it, so I didn't read that.
These are only given to me by my mom, just for the record. I haven't bought it.
I read the Al Yellen book.
By the numbers? Comes by the numbers. Wait, what's that?
I don't want to admit to Amazon that the review that I wrote on Amazon.com, I didn't read the book, but I wrote the review. I didn't claim though. I don't think that I wrote it. I claimed that I bought the book and I used it because, well, no, one of the legs of my bed was shorter than the other three, and I needed a book that was 215 pages long, and this one is, and it worked. I read the Verducci book, and I think that's it. I didn't really. I mean, I lived it. I didn't need to read it.
I've watched the.
Someday I will write my own, and then everyone will buy it.
I watched the series probably a half dozen times at this point, all the way through. And I've watched Game 7 probably 10 times.
All right, I'm going to do something here that's only when the people who download this podcast will and listen to it. You
get to do this without talking about it.
Won't get any effect. But if for those of you watching, okay, so this is George. So we were fostering George.
Were you fostering him from a junkyard?
And he got adopted out 5 times and got returned every time.
George, tell your parents to run a fucking comb through your hair and you'll
that's as good as that gets. He's a nice little dog. He never failed the adoption of his own volition.
Oh, it's all asshole.
Well, it was like one lady, she had another dog, and after 2 days, that dog decided, I do not want to have a brother, and kept attacking him, so she gave him back. One family, their dog had just died, and at the last minute, they bailed and said, we're not ready for another dog. One lady got him, an older lady who thought he was going to be the perfect dog, and she wanted to take him for a walk, and she like tripped and fell down, and he got away, and she was worried that would happen again, and so she gave him back, and all this sad stuff. So he's been living with us since Thanksgiving. So we just decided we're keeping him.
Oh, good for you guys. Yeah. That was who for Frank, Ralph, something.
George. Yeah, that's the problem. The dogs come pre-named.
Yeah, that's all right. It's an okay name.
So
George Bell. You can have my dog's going Maddox. You can have Cub-themed dogs.
Well, and ironically, this George also owns a gas station in the Dominican. That's why I'm keeping him. I mean, that's what he likes.
So we are not panicking. Is that our conclusion?
I'm going to give him 8 games, I think.
Okay.
I want to give him a representative amount of games before I jump.
Cubs Twitter has not given them 8 innings.
Cub Twitter is one of the dumbest things.
I know.
So I think if they, I don't know. Just the fact they're hitting, and even yesterday when they didn't score, they hit. They just didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't string them together in the proper order. To me, that's the most important thing. I'm not worried about the starting pitching. I'm even not worried about you yet. Not you, YOU, just YU. I'm a little concerned about you. It just felt like everything we know about him, that the first start back at the old ballpark, still trying to make sure that he thinks his elbow is okay, all that crap. It didn't surprise me that he struggled. And it really seemed like he had good stuff. He was throwing his freaking slider almost 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, I know.
The problem was he was only throwing the fastball like 93, and I think that was because if he really let it go, he couldn't throw it anywhere near the catcher.
That
makes it very difficult.
Right.
Nobody needs to swing at the slider.
Right.
if you can't spot the fastball. So.
And I think part of the problem, and if we can help assuage Cubs Twitters, there's no way we can, but I think just remember, guys, it's a lot more frustrating as a fan to watch a guy go 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. That's super fucking frustrating as a fan. But it's really no worse than if he's, and it takes a hell of a lot longer, obviously. But there's nothing. I mean, he'll settle in. He'll be fine.
I've been impressed with how efficient Mike Montgomery has been. I mean, he gets in and it's like 3 or 4 pitches and he's giving up the home run. I mean, he's not messing around. Yeah. I mean, he's taken Todd Manford, Commissioner Todd Manford. He's taken the pace of play thing to heart, and he's like, "All right, you want action? Here it comes." I'm throwing my 87-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle and see how far you can hit it.
Montgomery has a lifetime pass to do whatever the fuck he wants on the mound, though. So he can. I love Montgomery just because he's, because of 2016, but also because he's just been that guy that just the Sean Marshall type. He's like, you want me to start today? Fine. You want me to be in the bullpen for 30 days? Fine. Like I wish the bullpen was better, of course. Kimbrel's still out there, right?
Yeah, he is. A lot of, well, not a lot. I've heard a couple of different experts say that they expect he'll just end up back with the Red Sox again.
Yeah. That
like around May 1st, the Red Sox will be like, you know what, we don't have a closer, and they're 1-4. They're actually in worse shape than the Cubs are. If they'll just give him like a 1 or 2 year big contract, and then he'll just be a free agent again.
Yeah.
There's no way the Cubs are going to sign him. I mean, and to me, that's the frustrating thing about the offseason It would have been great to have gotten Bryce Harper just because I think he's really good, and the current right fielder is not.
He's out to a pretty good start though. Hayward is.
He's every ball is still. It amazed me that like 3 ground balls got through between first and second base. It's like that's where the ball is going. How do you not have everybody there?
I love Jason Hayward and I want him to be successful in this contract. But yes, of course.
The frustrating thing wasn't that they didn't spend money on Bryce. It's that they knew they needed, at the very least, somebody who could close.
Right.
Because Morrow was going to miss a month, and even when he's back, you're going to be lucky if you can pitch him 2 days in a row. So signing another closer seemed like the smartest thing to do, and then they just didn't do it. And not only didn't do it, but the guys they got as cheap as possible. Like they got Brad Brock, who, when he had mono. It's like they're stealing plots from Happy Days now, for God's sake. And then they get Xavier Cedeno. I don't even think he even threw a pitch. He's like, "Oh, my wrist."
Yeah.
It's like, for God's sake.
I think it's broken.
It could be a fractured ulna. If it's one thing to be cheap, but be a little more strategic about it.
That hour-long read has made that very clear.
Yeah.
But, I know. And I feel like I wasn't as frustrated in the offseason with them not making moves. I'm like, I did the whole rationalization in my head that, we get a healthy Ryan and we get a healthy Darvish. And now we've got Cole Hamels instead of fucking Chatwood. And now that I'm seeing what the product, not that I didn't know that those holes existed, but like now seeing it, it's not fun to watch right now, but they'll be fine.
I did like, though, that one guy they brought in the Darvish, the guy out of the bullpen, what was his name? Whatever that guy was. He was really good.
Yeah, they should make him a start.
4 innings, he struck out 8 guys. He wouldn't have given up any runs if David Bodie hadn't punted a ground ball.
Yeah, Quintana is so strange. Like he was a great. I think he was a great addition. He was a great addition.
He's been better than Cub fans seem to think he's been.
Exactly, because he's not flashy.
Yeah.
But remember this first start, he struck out 10 guys, and he's capable of that, and he's gonna take the ball. He's gonna have a 4 ERA. He's gonna put you in a position to win, maybe lower. He's gonna put you in a position to win, and he's
really good. So far, he's most famous for 2 things with the Cubs. He beats the Brewers consistently.
Yes, true.
And his wife has panic attacks on flights to Los Angeles before playoff series.
I did not. I did not.
Remember that? They're flying. They have the ridiculous game in Washington.
Yeah.
It goes into like the middle of the morning, and they finally Wade Davis pitches like 2 and 2/3 innings, gets through it. They all get hammered. The greatest John Lester interview ever is his interview in the locker room after that game. They all pile on the plane, and they're getting there, and she has a panic attack, and they had to make an emergency landing in Albuquerque.
I did not even.
And then the pilots ran out of time, so they had to get another crew, and then they finally flew to LA. They got there like in the middle of the morning the next day, and it was because Jose Quintana's wife had a panic.
Neat.
Yep. Otherwise, they win back-to-back World
Series. They would have won that series. Yeah. So, and like everyone will be better except Lester, that's what Lester is, and he gave you what you expect, John Lester, or what you hope for from John Lester.
Yeah, he's been.
I love that
He's
guy.
the rare free agent signing.
Yes.
That was better than we thought it was going to be, and we thought it would be good, but he's been amazing.
Yeah, he's been incredible, and especially I hate to say it, his age because he's so much younger than we are, but he's in the twilight of his MLB career at this point, and especially for a pitcher that has the innings on his arm with all those deep postseason runs. I mean, that guy is a real treat for Cubs. So I remember an article. This was probably 96 or 97, and it was probably the Tribune, and this is a great setup for this. There was one of those, hey, there are still reasons to go watch the Cubs. And they're like, because the Cubs have one of the most, I'll let you guess this, who they were talking about. They have one of the most efficient, one of the most professional, one of the most talented left-handed starters in the league right now, or that the Cubs have ever had or in the league, something like that. Can guess who that starter?
Did I miss? Did I get a rough time frame, or am I just guessing?
97. I think it was 97-ish, 96 or 97.
Is it Greg Hibbard?
No,
it'd been earlier than that.
He had a
lefty.
Wait, he had a goatee. Wait, now that I'm thinking this, maybe this was early.
Was it Paul Asemacher?
No.
Oh.
So, okay, I take it back. So maybe it was the second. Maybe it was right before 2003.
Oh, this is good.
No, so it was either right before they got good, and no, I think I want to. Well, I
This is going good.
I can give you exact years now. Lock it in. No, I was right. 98.
98.
98 and 99.
Terry Mulholland?
Yes.
I loved Terry Mulholland.
So did I, actually. I love Terry Mulholland, too. So, yes, very good.
I don't remember the actual numbers, but there's some. I wrote it for back when I actually used to write things on Desipio. I went back and looked at how many games Mulholland and Rodbeck pitched in down the stretch.
Oh my God!
And Mulholland was starting and would end up at like 2 days rest just in a random September game. Riggleman would throw him in to get like 2 outs in the 8th inning of a game, and then 2 days later he would start again.
Yep.
And the two of them were famous for they wouldn't ice their arms after games. It's like, oh, we don't need to do that. And Rod, of course, said, well, give me my ice. I'm going to put it in a drink. But they just talked about what a ridiculous rubber arm Terry Mulholland had. Yeah. And it was like, I can pitch today. Well, you threw 135 pitches yesterday. Dusty would have loved him and would have absolutely killed him.
Maybe I just like those guys because I like.
Well, that team was.
I like Mulholland.
That team was really fun.
Yeah, well, of course.
And we knew they weren't any good. Like the reason that when they won the play-in game against the Giants, the reason that place went nuts was we knew that was the end.
Right.
Like they were going to go. The Braves were going to kick their teeth in.
Right.
But just the fact that they actually got it was, Sammy'd had that ridiculous season.
They were
they were actually going to go to the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
But there was no future. We knew there was no future. They had all these. I mean, they grabbed Gary Gaetti off the waiver wire, and he went crazy for them for the last 2 months.
And then they re-signed him.
Yeah, and then Jim Hendry brought everybody back. It's like, yeah, Jim, that you weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Actually, that probably wasn't even. No, that would have been. That was Ed Lynch.
Oh yeah.
Jim was like the scouting director at the time.
Yeah.
Ed Lynch made the tremendous decision to just bring everybody back, which is why 3 years later he got fired, and should have been 10 minutes later instead of 3 years.
Should have been 10 minutes before, ideally.
It's nice to be able to just forget sometimes that it used to be like that all the time.
Yeah.
When you actually now we're complaining about
a 1-3
why didn't they spend another $25 million to add to fix the bullpen on a team full of all-star caliber players under the age of 30 and with an all-star caliber rotation of proven winners?
Right.
Yeah. It's a much different Cub fans, I think that's when I get, uppity annoyed. Is when I see them complaining. It's like, you know what, fuck you. You either, if you remember what it was like, then you need to shut up.
Yeah.
And if you're too young to know what it's like, then screw you. Because when I was your age, Steve Buechele was playing third base for the Cubs.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good idea because I was a kid and I didn't know any better.
So I'm trying to be a little bit more serene about my fandom in general. So I'm going to try to also not be that guy that's going ranting. So I'm going to hold all you listeners to holding me accountable for this. I'm going to try not to be that. You guys all shut up and calm down because that's almost as annoying, I think, sometimes as like the blowback from the blowback. It's like, all right, whatever. Just let them punch themselves tired and they'll all fall asleep on the porch. But I will say this, Cubs fans. We only need a 3-game winning streak to get to 500. Wait, 2-game. 1-3. They need a 2-game winning streak to get to 500. Remember when they needed a 14-game winning streak to get to 500? Before they had won a game on the season, they were only. So think about it. Think about what this team has become.
So I still write them occasionally. I did a fake oral history on the '97 Cubs.
I think I read that.
Except the Kaplan stuff isn't fake. He actually wrote all that and sent it to me. So when you read it, that stuff is true, because he talked about that was the year he made the stupid bet that he would he was in a van, right? He was in the WGN van.
That he would shave his head.
And he wouldn't leave the van until they finally won a game. And he did it after like game 4. So he was there for like 2, because with off days, he was there for 2 weeks living out of that van. It's really funny. I have to link. I'll do that. I'll add the link to the Ricketts thing from Deadspin. And I'll add the link to the 97 oral history, because you can read the Kaplan stuff is really Dave. It's not me making it up.
And link Terry Mulholland's baseball reference page.
That's right. Yeah, everybody should have that bookmarked. He's a Cub legend.
Oh, link the Amazon link to where to buy teammates. Since we shat all over that. Oh, and thank you.
Should I set it up so Bleacher Nation gets $1?
Oh God.
If you buy it.
Thank you if it was one of you out there, by the way, who bought my Saturday tickets off StubHub.
Yeah, I'm sure it was one of our listeners. They didn't even go to the game. I feel bad for him.
I should have sold it directly to you, so we avoided those fees. Okay.
All right. Well, that was good. We talked.
Yeah, successful.
We talked about the actual team for about 5 minutes, and that's kind of what they deserve.
That was all tangentially about the Cubs, though.
Yes, it was all about the Cubs.
Let's break it all down. What we did. We talked about. We talked about. No. Oh, one thing I didn't forget to mention about Arlington. I will say, and I'm liking this as a trend, and the Cubs obviously don't necessarily have the space to do this, but Atlanta did this so cool. Like, and frankly, St. Louis did it not as cool, but to an extent, like that idea of having that sort of ballpark village, for lack of a better word, especially since Arlington is right by the Cowboys stadium. Those are apparently right next to each other or close to each other. I didn't see it, and they've got that neat. They actually had 2. I don't know how much this cost. They had 2 live bands. Texas Live is what they call it. They had these 2 live bands actually playing at different stages after the game. We hung out. They had bags and dancing. It was actually pretty cool. Good barbecue. Of course, good Tex-Mex.
The Cubs should buy up a bunch of land right behind the Wrigley, and they could put a grass area there with a jumbotron, and they could put like a really expensive taco place there, and they could put a hotel next to it. And they should think of this. I don't know why they haven't thought of doing something like that.
Well, my point is, to an extent, the Cubs obviously Arlington is in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Although if you guys go, stay at the Mary Doubletree. I don't know. It was I don't know. There was a hotel that was like walking distance from the park. Put that in the link actually too.
Okay, good. I'll add that too.
But they don't. Obviously, there'd be huge noise complaint. I mean, I'm sure these people were partying all night after the game. And there were literally concerts going on. It was really neat, which you can do when you're in the middle of nowhere in Texas, which obviously you can't do and they don't have the space. I mean, the Cubs really don't have the space to do that. And like what they've done with the space they have is admirable, and I really like what they've done with it, because there's, it's cool, because before it was literally just.
Well, they would have done more, except Marlene Ricketts won't sell any more of her stock.
Maybe you stop fucking breeding. You wouldn't need so much money for your grandchildren, you idiot. Right, Dolan?
Exactly.
No kids is the way to go.
Yeah. The Cowboy Stadium, so AT&T Stadium, they have their, the Cowboy Complex is right next to it, and they have this other building called the Star, which is their practice facility, but it has a bunch of seats in it, and the high school teams use it. It would be like the coolest high school stadium ever. Yeah, sure. And the Alliance of American Football was going to play their championship game in it, except they went bankrupt today, and now they're closed. So Steve Spurrier declared the Orlando Apollos the league champs because they were 7-1, and the next best team was 5-3.
Cool.
So
congrats to them.
Yeah, but I knew the league was in trouble when they were going to play their Super Bowl in the Cowboy practice facility.
So, one more thing about Texas, and then we can sign off. Kelsey and I were agreeing. Kudos to Texas. We did not see. I don't think we saw a single Confederate flag. We saw a lot of dumb.
Did you see Beto O'Rourke? Was he there?
Oh yeah, he was.
Was he standing on a table?
He was actually in one of the 2 bands at Texas Live. So we were very pleasantly surprised. And I was telling Kelsey, I'm like, I feel like that's more of like like a Mississippi, Georgia, Florida thing. But the amount of Texas, the way that they were shoehorning the word Texas into every business down there was fucking embarrassing for them. Like, get over yourselves. I don't even know what the state flag of Illinois looks like. I know Chicago's. I don't even live in Chicago.
No, Illinois has got an eagle on it.
Cool. Naperville has a SUV.
Rockford's is a Liv Moss Taco Bell flag. And we love it.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Let's exhaust everyone.
That was a podcast.
Yeah, we did it. Yay.
We did. We're done. Yay.
Oh, this is gonna be nice because then next week Kyle and I will do it. And we'll have every.
It'll just be a rotating group.
Never all three of us.
Yeah.
And then
there's three of us.
And then we can get the three Yahoos on Cubs Outcast or Outpost.
That would be a better. That's a better name. I'll send that to Cap. Can you go? No,
Outhouse.
Here would be the best.
Call
this would be
Cubs,
the best.
Cubs Outhouse.
They cast 2 fans, and then they demote David DeJesus to that postgame show. Dave, can you wait a half hour?
Dave, incredible
and
teeth.
go sit by the weather map?
And nothing else. Nothing else going on.
And he's still the third best guy on that one.
Yeah. Oh, one more quick thing. Now that I'm thinking of this, because do you own a PS4?
Yes.
Have you gotten this iteration of the show?
No, I'm still playing last year's because I'm cheap.
Okay, so I don't know if this is true because I do not have a PS4, but I heard that Pat Hughes' home run call is an unlockable item in PS4 the show. So someone tweet that at us if that's true.
Well, this is true also, that Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood are playable legends in the game this year.
For whom? The AAA Iowa Cubs?
They make rehab starts in the Arizona Fall League. I'm trying to I almost have it where every time they changed the name of the disabled list this year to the injured list.
That's right.
Because disability is not an injury.
No.
So they've been calling it the wrong thing for very long. And I've gotten John Greenberg lets me get away with this. Every time I mention it in one of my columns, it's the Wood Pryor list trademarked. Because I think they should name it after those two. Who spent more time on the list than them? So I'm trying to get it into the athletic style book, so that even like Ken Rosenthal and Peter Gammons have to type out the Wood Pryor list. I don't think that's going to fly, but I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah. Fight's a good fight.
Yeah.
Well, get the new version and unlock that for us, and then play it on the next podcast that you're on.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you next week or whenever we do this again.
Yeah.
All right.
Later, man.